All right.
We made it. We're on. It's been a long morning.
Bit of a challenging morning. Yeah, for sure. We had some challenge with our software setup.
But here we are.
We're here.
Great to be live with you guys and to start the conversation like we have in the past, and just telling a little bit about what we've done with our family meeting. This last Saturday, we had our family meeting, as we do every Saturday. Things happen where that doesn't always happen, but that's the goal, and we have been able to do that for the last 3 weeks. And we started out with just checking in with everybody about their goals, and if they hadn't established them, going through the chart that does the SMART goals, and just talking through what that will look like for them, and narrowing it down so that everybody could start the week with those.
Yeah, I mean, we had, of course, talked about that the previous week, and then people had time to go over that. And I think you bring up an important point that, even if you've covered something, you've got to circle around, circle back, revisit things, and that's how we're going to get more and more success. And also you're talking about it again, so it's not that something's necessarily even incorrect, but helps to instill that over time. Yeah. Another shot at it.
Yeah. So along those lines, we also talked about what motivates you, and made sure that we had something from each person to know what motivates you. And so that was good to be able to do that. And then let's see, we decided that I think it was Sunday that we ended up beginning the next week.
Yeah.
And talking about playing to your strengths, which is what this week has been all about. And it was really something that I thought, this is just a simple task. We'll just sit around and I'll write down what everybody sees as their strength. Well, I don't know. I'm curious how other people experience this. But as we sat down there, one of the first things we said is, remember the full value contract.
Yep.
This isn't joking around time, because our family tends to be a bit sarcastic and jokey. And we wanted to make sure that when people are sharing their strengths, that there wasn't any discounting, and there wasn't any rescuing, which I found myself having a really hard time with that when a kid couldn't think of a strength. I'm like,
And not couldn't, they just hadn't yet.
Right. They hadn't developed.
Certainly can.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and you mentioned an important piece that we'll talk about a bit more, but just highlighting it because we're talking about the concept of front loading.
Right.
Or setting expectations. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later, but you just mentioned it right there, that we were broaching the topic, and then you could probably feel the looks on everybody's faces as they're about to get sarcastic, right? And just in time, and I was trying to hold myself back.
Right. I think you were the one that.
Yeah, that's right. I said it because
you felt
I was about to just undercut exactly what we were doing. Some snarky joke, and kind of poking fun at somebody in the in the group.
Yeah.
And that's not what we're doing in every moment. And so reminding myself and reminding the others who might tend to be more that way, that this is an opportunity to discuss strengths, not to poke fun at each other. We've got the rest of the day for that. I'm sure we'll utilize a lot of it. So front loading that experience.
Something that I also just wanted to mention is that I know that in our curriculum we talk a lot about being in Alaska, and I think most of you know we have transitioned to Southern Oregon in the last year and a half, and we've acclimated because we're very cold when it's freezing. When it's just 32 degrees, we are shivering, and it's -40, and where we lived just a year and a half ago.
You also dress for -40 when it's -40, and whereas this morning we're trying to get the tech going for this morning's live stream, and everything was going wrong, and we didn't dress for it. So we're out here in ultimately the very end, the north side of our property of one of our buildings, here where the studio is, and it's not particularly warm, and it's definitely a lot of shivering. But so yeah, we've transitioned to Southern Oregon, which is the key point. We certainly, we still are back and forth to Alaska as we can, but that looks differently, right? So as a lot of our curriculum is talking about Alaska, and that's because we have this dual, back and forth relationship there. It's a key place for us, but
something we found is how important it is for us to play to the strengths of our family and find new strengths as well, moving to a new place, and then supporting, I'm going to say it again, strengths in our kids as we transition.
Well, I mean, I think another key piece to that I think in the past people used to say, well, you guys are in Alaska, so of course you guys are adventurous. Right. Well, first of all, there's a ton of folks in Alaska that aren't, or in any place, right? I mean, adventure isn't so much about, is there a lot of nature outside? Mm-hmm. I think there are a lot of places with nature. But yeah, there is an aspect of truth there that you have to look a bit harder in some places for what that is. And so, for us, it was much easier, given who we are, our lifestyle, and where we were. Mm-hmm. I gotta say, it's not that difficult here, other than just current challenges globally. So, but adventure can be found anywhere. So, but it is making that transition. I think it gives us a better perspective now, not being in Alaska, to be looking for it.
Because adventure-based parenting isn't just about our actions. It's about this frame of mind and how we interact with the environment around us and our children. And that's what's been so fun about this curriculum and encouraging is to have this foundational piece to wrap our frame of mind with it, and taking it to these different environments and applying them to our family dynamic.
Yeah, and for those who are already, within the group and have been in it for a long time, you're well aware there are people, all over with very different options, mm-hmm. Both in restrictions or just in great access. And of course, that's exactly what we're talking about. That the adventure is in the mindset. It is in also beyond the mindset. It is also in. I was going to say the search. It's in the being really, really intentional, which I guess connects right to mindset.
Yeah. So, like I said, we sat around together and we each had a turn to say our strength. I think one person, it was easy for them to just say their strength because they had recently had to do more of that type of thing in interviews or that. But I think all of us struggled to come up with a strength. And it was really interesting to see how, first of all, I mentioned this a little earlier. I wanted to rescue and.
Oh, it was you?
Yeah. Or like I heard a little something from somebody, and so I spoke for them. I think she was trying to say, or, and instead of letting and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be like that, don't.
But you had most of the family all stepping in saying, no, wait, no, don't, Mom, don't rescue, which was great. I think it was good because what we see in that from you about you is that you deeply care and you want people to get, to not feel left out.
Right.
And that's great. That's one of Greta's strengths. And it, that kind of pulls the rug from underneath, someone who can really work towards that. So we don't want to have somebody struggle. We want to have them on a growing edge where they really have to engage. And so, we can't just throw things at people, in which we talk about quite a bit in the course, and just expect that they're going to know.
Right.
And the flip side of that is if we are always providing the answer, always, oh, Johnny, this is the great thing, right? Yeah. Yes. How much thinking is required there?
Yes, you cannot be afraid of silence. That's really important. We had a lot of silence,
which is rare in a family of 7. So maybe there's a trick there. More debrief, difficult questions. We'll get some silence.
I thought it was interesting how different kids, they knew they couldn't give an answer for the siblings. But in the silence, they put themselves in each other's shoes, and they tried to find ways to help people come up with their. One of the kids said, "Well, I come up with my weakness, and then I go back from there."
Well, he was saying that was one way that you could find a strength.
Right.
If you are more judgmental or more prone to point out your own, critical of yourself. Well, okay, so that's a starting place. If you can easily find the spots to be critical about, well, then what is the converse of that? What's the opposite? And there's probably something there that you can own.
Yeah.
I think that was the challenge for most of us was speaking a strength. And I think that's a bit cultural. That's a lot of things. And that may or may not be the case for you. Mm-hmm. It will likely be the case for several people within your family.
Well, and I think some people would find a strength and then they would discount it.
Right.
Because they saw a time where they didn't do that strength. Yeah.
Or they'd expect everybody else to jump in, which is why we stopped the sarcasm before we started.
Right.
It'd be funny moments for sure. We can riff on that for a while, but we really do want families and each person in the family to be able to discuss something that they do well, a strength that they have, and then build upon that.
So after we were done doing that, it was late and we needed to get everybody to bed, and so we left the family meeting with, so this week I want you to think about strengths of everybody in the family, and then strengths as a whole. What are the strengths of our family? And I got them all a little notebook so they could write in it, something they can bring to our family meetings. And so tonight, hopefully we'll get to hear what people have come up with. For Laurel, our 4-year-old, she's not writing yet.
Wow.
And I don't know that I can give her an idea of what strengths are, but it's kind of a big concept. And so I just asked her the other day, what do you like about everyone in the family? So we went through all the different people in the family, and I just wrote down what she likes about them. Mm-hmm. And so that'll be a fun thing to share when our family gets together. Some of them are a little bit silly.
Well, in that you're the scribe, and even with a 4-year-old, mm-hmm. With a pointed question, very specific, then they can answer that question. Yeah. So once again, it's not rescuing. You're the scribe. You're prompting mm-hmm. pretty openly. What do you like about so and so? Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what things are the same with other people, and those pieces. So.
Well, and I like that. This can be done a number of ways, but we chose to do the first round of one strength about each person's own self, mm-hmm. and then pause from that and reflect over the week. And then, of course, we reminded them that it would be, and this is a bit of the foreshadowing or front loading, in that when we come back, it would be a bit of a bummer if, as we went around the table, we get to people and they are clearly trying to come up with something in the moment. And certainly some people are better at that than others, but that's not the point.
Right.
This
and that's
is about
a front
reflecting.
loading thing
Yeah.
that we've been keep front loading.
Yeah, of course, you're going to have to practice that. So front loading that over time, and over
Right.
in time.
Here's a notebook.
That's
Make sure to take some time to think about the family and what you would like to say.
Well,
Straight.
it's honoring to
It
each
is.
family member as well that
It
that each of us took time out of our week to specifically think about, each person,
Mm-hmm.
rather than, you're handsome.
Right.
Like, that's your strength.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned just now, kind of in passing, but you got little notebooks.
Mm-hmm.
Did you mention that specifically?
I did.
Oh, you did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
That's funny.
Someone should have told me that. Kick me, somebody. She already said that. You're not listening. The movie quotes are coming to me now, of course.
So something important I just wanted to, and we mentioned this in the beginning too, when you start these family meetings, remember to cycle back in some ways, making sure that you're being reminded about the full value contract and challenge by choice and SMART goals, and keeping track of the things that you guys have accomplished, what's going highs and lows. We haven't done a lot of that, but I think that's really helpful. And
Well, yeah, the idea is that this isn't just 1 week and then you can shelve it and move on. The idea is that this continues to build, and many of you are doing that, and that's something that for all of us we can continue to focus on that. And some of these concepts I think we mentioned, that we have done these things for so many years that we haven't said them by name. So when we mentioned, for example, the full value contract, which isn't ours, we didn't come up with it. It's a long-standing premise within experiential education. We never said those words, to the children. And so putting the name to the thing that we do was, informative for them. And then they could get their heads around, this isn't just what our family does. It's not just who we are. This actually comes from something.
it's a tool that
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess as we look into this next week, we just mentioned briefly that we like to do, kind of Sunday to Saturday. And Saturday we revisit things, wrap things up, have a bit of a meeting before that big day takes off for us, and then Sunday, new content the next week, and we move into that. Of course, each of you will find your own rhythm for that. There's not a perfect way. For us, that works out in this chapter of life.
Right.
And it has to do with where kids are and where we are within our schedules. So find what works for you. That's the important part. It's not about the day. It's about doing the thing.
Right. And if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just having that space where you can have some quick discussion, or maybe you have a big event, a meal and games, and all of those pieces would be a really special thing as well.
Well, the more ceremony that you can make around something, right?
Yeah.
The more that you can build around that moment, rather than this is a tedious task.
Right.
This is a family meeting, and if there's already the groaning beginning, well, there's something that needs to be addressed there.
Right.
There are times for groans, and this is not that time.
Right.
Find what works for you, and that may take some figuring.
Don't be discouraged. Keep trucking on.
I think that's the message so much for 2022. This is going to be a very good year. I'm calling that. It's going to be a great year. There's going to be some challenges, of course, because we're alive. And the world still spins, so things are not, unicorns and rainbows. But this is going to be a good year, and I think the more that we put, just like we mentioned before, the more we put our intention towards things, and that's not that just because I believe something that makes it true, but no, I'm actually going to keep driving towards the things that I believe are important and act this year. So from us to you, see you soon. Have a great 2022. We're well into it.
I know. We'll see you next week.
Week 4 is beginning.